And yeah, I just got a message from our today's expert, Daniil, that he will join us in 2 minutes. But still, I think I can start with the introduction. And hi, everyone. My name is Alec. I'll be hosting this session. I'm leading the Ton Nest program at Ton Foundation. This is a early stage projects support kind of program that you can find on the builders.ton.org. We are happy to welcome every project who are building on Ton to hear what they are working on, to know what kind of supports can be provided to you, and what are your expectations from us as from Foundation. And from time to time, we also host this kind of workshops, mentorship sessions, roast sessions, any kind of other formats on our YouTube channel, on Zoom, at TonNest, at Ton Foundation's hubs. And yeah, this time we are back with another workshop where we invited our friends from TonTon Games, particularly Daniil Scherbakov, who has hosted a couple of workshops before. You can find them on our YouTube channel. We already covered the topic of fundraising misconceptions, fundraising one-on-one, and this time we are covering the topic about investor outreach. And yeah, there are some of you watching us on Zoom. Some of you are watching us on our YouTube channel. And in order to be on Zoom and participate our workshops with your voice and being able to admit yourself, turn on your cameras or send us any kind of messages, you need to register through the Luma that we share on our social media pages, or be part of Tom Nest, where you can also find the Zoom link that we are sharing. And still, yeah, those of you who are watching us on YouTube, feel free to leave your comments, your questions, your suggestions in the live chat on YouTube. I'll be checking that from time to time. And those of you who are here on Zoom, feel free to raise your hands and mute yourself wherever you want that. And yeah, be here with us live, and bring your cases. Say us more about tell us more about what you're working on and what kind of cases you had in terms of reaching out to investors. And yeah, today's topic is very interesting. As the name says, we will be covering everything about reaching out to investors. And I believe Daniil today will be sharing some tricks and hacks about what time you need to reach out, what kind of templates you need to use. For example, how can you reach out to investors on Telegram, in different messengers, via emails, etc. And yeah, once Daniil joins our Zoom session, I will ask him to give a little outline and introduction about what will be covered today. And it seems like I see Daniil in the waiting room, and I believe you are here now. Daniil, hello.
Yeah, I am sorry, guys, for being late. Was all over the place lately, but
It's
very happy to be here today.
Yeah, it's absolutely fine. No problem at all. I was just completing my introduction part about our today's format and about what's happening here. And yeah, very happy to host you here, Daniel. Thank you once again for your time. And yeah, I think we can start without further ado, without any ado. And please, just before we start, tell us a couple of words about yourself, about your background, and after that we can dive deep into the topic.
Yeah, with greatest pleasure. Let me go full screen, so hopefully you can see my presentation. Do you?
Yes.
Perfect. So, guys, hey everyone, very happy to be here today. Alec, once again, thank you, and to the TonNest team for the invitation. And this is actually, by the way, the part two of our masterclass. I believe part one was held in around 2 or 3 weeks ago, and there we will talk more about fundraising stuff and in general what is the approach to find the investors. And today is the second part where we will talk in detail how to craft great cold emails, especially from the lens of the investment stuff. So, who the hell am I? In addition to being the co-founder of TonTon Games, one of the biggest publishers and developers of games on Ton, before I was also a head of business development at VK.com, and in general, I have been doing so-called art of launching tech startups from scratch for the last 12 years. And the reason why I'm here is that I genuinely love sharing information. It brings me joy, and this is, I believe, my main hobby, actually. Because, first of all, when you share knowledge, you become more and more uh, competent in a subject, and you keep also your knowledge up to date. And in general, I just love thinking that some people might avoid making mistakes that were done before by me. And I also happen to hold the Master of Business Administration degree from the University of Cambridge. So if any of you are curious kind about the proper education in a top tier university, also feel free to DM me. But in regards to our subject, today is all about the cold emails. I would call it some sort of a cold email 101. So the end goal of today's masterclass is to equip you with the right frame of mind and looking at things as of cold emails to better understand where to start writing them, how to approach those things. Obviously, it is virtually impossible to give you all of the information within 1 hour time frame, but still I will try to do my best and guide you through the key things and layer the groundwork for you so you could take it from there. So first of all, obviously, we have all written cold emails. And really, we might think of something that is not cold email, but even us DMing someone on Tinder is still a cold email. Like really, so cold emails surround us. So for me, cold email is actually like some sort of a core tool. And by cold email, it is very important that I mean any message that is sending that is being sent to a person that you don't know. So let's just set that it's used for sales, for customer discovery, for fundraising, for dating, whatever else, any kind of other business related or personal related matter. But let's, I believe, have two things sorted right away. So first of all, this is not a cold email. So if you happen to receive that kind of shitty uh, cold email, just know that this is spam. This is mass email blast with all of those kind of things. So this is not a cold email at all. And by the way, what I really forgot to tell you is who the hell am I from the lens of why I'm consider myself knowledgeable to speak about it. So first of all, I generated over 6,000 high quality leads for the few software as a service B2B startups. I raised over 3 million pounds, found and basically set up over 500 customer development interviews abroad without basically paying a cent for it. Find an internship and a job a few times already. And the most important and darling thing to me, met my future wife. And this is all about cold emails. So I'm the right guy to speak about this and to talk to you about it. But getting back, and another thing, for better or for worse, yes, I might call it the art of cold emails, but at the very same time, there is no holy grail in cold emails. So there is no some sort of an ideal format or ideal subject line or an ideal body of the emails that would get you a response. Not at all. I believe the rules are kind of similar and they are logical, but at the very same time, I couldn't get you a template that would definitely give you a response. But as a cherry on top today, I will show you at least an email that helped me to initiate a ton of the dialogues with venture capital funds. But once again, establishing a dialogue doesn't mean closing a deal, but still, at least it works for me. So what do we need to understand when we write cold emails? That first of all, we have to prepare first. And this is a step that is often overlooked. In general, the way I see some people approaching cold emails as like a thing that really bothers them. They don't really believe into it, so they would like to basically deal with it as fast as possible, as shitty as possible, so then they can claim that, gosh, this sales, fundraising, lead generation, or whatever channel doesn't work, so let's pay for ads. Guys, it does work. And there is a very weird, quirky Russian phrase, which I love to tell, which says that if you don't like cats, this is primarily because you don't know how to cook them. So it implies essentially you shouldn't dislike cold emails if you don't know how to properly write them and approach even this subject. So, getting back to the presentation, prepare first. What do I mean by that? First of all, you need to understand what you're going to write. And you might say, like, hey, Daniel, this is so obvious why you are even spending time on this right now. And you would be so much surprised when you would see that a lot of the people who are extremely competent in what they are doing write super shitty cold emails. Not even because they don't know how to write, but because they couldn't care less. So basically, having a framework on how to approach it might help to hold yourself accountable, which is very, very important. So, first of all, decide what will be the single key message of your email. And it should be only one. Is it, let's say, about fundraising? Is it about the interviews? Is it about anything else? So don't create an email with a few intentions, one intention at a time. Then make sure that you do understand who is the recipient because it actually influences a lot of things. So basically, what is the tone of voice are you going to use? Would you use any kind of memes or emojis in your email? Let's say, what is the position of the person in the organization? And all of this will allow you to basically make the email appropriate. And to give you an idea that there are a few factors that I personally outlined that influence your type of writing. So obviously company size. The bigger and the more established company side and the more traditional the industry, the more formal the email should be. Then obviously a position. If the person is some sort of a not the higher up position, you could be slightly more informal. If it is, let's say, on the C executive seat, then you have to be more formal, at least to start with. Then recipient's age. Obviously, like I'm 33, and I have to confess again, a lot of confessions for today, that I don't get the memes of the 20-year-olds. I don't understand it at all. For me, it's hard to digest. I could send them some sort of, let's say, Y2K memes. They won't get it either. So that's the point. Just try to understand whom are you talking to age-wise and what is appropriate and inappropriate in the informal conversation and communication. And finally, culture and country. So it is also kind of important because sometimes the cultural factors are overlooked, but they can be more important actually. So here is a funny bit. So for instance, in some cultures, people won't ever say you no to you. If you ask them something, they would be like, yeah, 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 something like that, but it would basically guide you towards nowhere. So it's much more important to understand how you should approach the people country-wise. When this lecture was first created and run, obviously it was continuously updated throughout the time, but still there was no such a thing like ChatGPT and stuff. But really, right now, create a specific dedicated project to cold email outreach. Write down to a specific company, write down all of the info into the description of the prompt, and then do the research on a specific person. It will give you really a lot because I believe the whole frame of mind, what you should understand is that it's not about the quantity of the messages that you do send daily. It's about the quality. So basically, sending 5 to 10, but deeply researched and personalized messages would get you much further than sending dozens or even hundreds of it daily. And also, obviously, you will make mistakes, which is absolutely fine. We all been there. We just starting with a new skill. But with sending little of messages would basically keep you away from burning your database completely from the first run. Then the last bit, why the person should reply. So it is extremely important to determine what target of action you want from the recipient. Is it another call? Is it a coffee? Is it an introduction to some other relevant person? So once again, do not overwhelm your message with contradictory call to actions. It is by default one call to action for a person. If it's a call for the investment, then it's a call for an investment. Don't ask also a feedback for a pitch deck at the same time. And no attachments, guys, at least in the first email if you haven't been asked for it. Then, if you would like to have a coffee with a person, then just a coffee. If you would like to interview a person, then an interview person it is. So one thing at a time. Once again, not rocket science, but what I find out in my life, not that old as I already mentioned, but still, but the simpler things in life are the hardest to follow. So all of those things would require you like what? 5-10 minutes of your time to do a proper preparation. Okay, at max half an hour. And we still don't do it because we think that it's not important. We would rather procrastinate on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, you name it, than would do some kind of this thing. But this is actually might bring us much further down the road than anything else. So now, guys, with those kind of a state of mind in place, we are kind of ready to move forward in regards of what a cold email is and basically how to approach it. So, first of all, we should understand that any cold email at max consists of three parts. It's essentially a subject line, a body of message, and the signature. Obviously, from channel to channel, it might vary. If you're talking about, for instance, Telegram message, it doesn't have a subject line and a signature for obvious reasons. At the very same time, you might use a signature in your bio in Telegram. Then LinkedIn also doesn't have a signature, but it has a subject line if you're writing to a person whom you don't know. So anyway, I believe having a clear picture will get you up to speed into understand of what it is all about. So, first of all, the key reason why do people open your email is the subject line. It is proven by the stats. It is very important. And this is also how people understand whether this email is clearly spam or not. And I'm not even talking about spam filters, which is obvious, but on a personal level, as you went through the spam filters. So it is very important to keep your subject line simple, short, and to the point. So what makes a good subject line? So first of all, the recipient should want to open a letter with such a subject line. At the very same time, this subject line should be connected with the message itself. So if you decide to cut the corners and you will say, fuck Daniel, I'm going to Google or to ChatGPT and will ask it to create me a 10 subject lines that would get me close to 100 open rates. So be it. I personally don't mind, but what you would see that most of those subject lines, which are indeed exist, first of all, are kind of bounced by spam filters, but even if they are not, they are most likely do not connect with the body of the message. So such kind of subject line might be urgent, please respond. Or let's say you want something, or blah, blah, blah. And this is like, it will get the person's attention, but once the person would see it, this basically would put him away from responding to you. So I will give you an example of that kind of a shitty subject line. Once upon a time, I believe last year, I was sitting in an office minding my business, and then out of the woods, I just received a Google Calendar invitation as I thought. So with a specific format, how the Google invitation is structured when you receive it. I was kind of mixed up. I didn't expect to get a call from a stranger booked. My Calendly was locked at that time. So I opened this message, and it turned out to be that this is some sort of a smart ass using this as a subject line to send me a cold email. Obviously, I was frustrated and dissatisfied. It's not quirky, it's not funny, it's poor practice. And it's like obviously I couldn't forbid it, but it's won't get you further, because I believe what kind of those growth hackers, how do I believe they think about themselves, aim is, yes, they aim a huge open rate. I don't, this is great, but this is a bullshit metric, in a way that the real metric should be how many calls or responses do you get from your message. So that's kind of a mindset that you should have. So you should have a decent call subject line that is clear what the email was about. It is clear that this is targeted towards a specific recipient, and this is not a spam mailing or blast email. But at the very same time, you shouldn't fall into a trap of making it appealing to everyone. Make it personalized. And I kind of noticed before a very interesting paradox of life, that when we are a recipient of cold email, we could easily spot all of those imperfections. And it is so easy for us to understand which of the emails is shit and spam. But once we get into the other side of the road and start crafting cold messages, gosh, everything changes. It's like we have an amnesia, and we like right away forgot everything that we were allergic on as the recipients, and we start crafting the cold emails that are so shitty that if we would receive something like that, we would never respond. So please be aware of this bias, and just like always do the reality check. So, how to create a good subject line is, here is some sort of a framework how I do approach it. So first of all, you could start with using the recipient's name, mutual acquaintance, a specific event, or name and purpose of the email at the beginning. So just like to catch the person's attention. And then something that used as a follow-up. It might be a relevant subject, it might be a question. So to give you an idea, it might be, let's say, person recently attend a podcast, and you could have here a podcast name, and then in the subject line here some sort of a question if you would like, let's say, to ask it, or kind of, let's say, podcast name, and then you say, like you mentioned, that I could reach out to you for fundraising. Obviously the subject line shouldn't be long, but this is a funny bit. Speaking of the lengths of the subject lines, there is really not much of a correlation between them. So as long as it is up to, I believe, 70 characters, or even 80 is fine, you are good to go. So don't make it too lengthy, but at the very same time, as you can see here, make it really short, doesn't really provide you too much of a benefit. Then here is another kind of a things that I would like to mention. So as I mentioned before, I already used word mentioned so many times today, gosh, shame on me. There is no some sort of a holy grail on cold emails, but it is pretty much possible to understand what you shouldn't do. And here is a few things that I would like to highlight. So first of all, don't use emojis. First of all, it suck. Second of all, I believe the only one time that emojis are being used in the email is when we receive a marketing email from some sort of a hipster brand of coffee, or you name it. Then basically avoid using words that trigger spam filters. You can just go to Google or ask ChatGPT about those words, but they're like free, free of charge, any kind of that kind of stuff. Just you could train the ChatGPT not to use those words to keep you away from spam filters. Because once you get into a spam filter, the bigger problem is that after a certain quantity of the emails that were bounced by spam filter, your email, or even might be the domains that are flagged. So your emails by default would land in the spam folder. Then don't write any kind of generic words in the subject line. So this of, let's say, I have a special offer for you, this is bad. Probably not as bad as the next point when you basically have a clickbait subject line. Like this one, yeah, you definitely will get a lot of open rates, but if you are really not providing the free $50 voucher, you most likely won't get much of a replies, and more like report spam things. Also, this would trigger the spam filter, and what's more, even if you would, let's say, hey, get an on the interview with me and get a $50 voucher, it's still kind of shaky. I don't believe in that kind of stuff. I would prefer to have a subject line when you would say, let's say, I would really love to interview you, like interview request and the person name. Do a better job where you mention in a body that you will get a person a $50, $25, or whatever Amazon coupon. It would be better. And finally, this is my personal preference, but I don't really use any kind of negativity in a topic. So all of those things, like silly things, are you still losing money on every client and blah blah blah? Don't spread the negativity. The world is already messed up enough. This is perhaps my approach to things, but like be positive, and the world would respond you in the same way. I don't want to get any spiritual stuff, guys. Don't get me wrong, but at least in my personal experiences, the open rates and reply rates, and all of this, by the way, is not some sort of a lame ass paraphrasing from the Google materials. All of those things I actually got from my personal experience, and basically the subject lines with the negativity in it brought to me less leads and sales than the ones that are more neutral or positive. And guys, since we are here today to get some sort of a artifacts out of today's presentations, I just would like to show you a few templates that you might start with in your cold email journey for different purposes. By the way, feel free to do screenshots. I'm very happy with that. So if you need to find a respondent for an interview, this is a subject line that I use, like invitation for an interview, then the name of the person and how you're doing X in the company Y. Or it might be just invitation for an interview, or and then the person's name or something like that. That would be also fine. Then, if you are selling the product, start with a question about the challenge, and it might get the conversation going. I believe everyone is aware that you won't make any sale from the get-go. So basically, by this I mean that it won't close the deal if you will start selling right away. You need to basically set up the basement of the groundwork and let's say the relationship before getting into anything else. Then the business stuff. If you would like, let's say, to meet with someone and talk about some kind of stuff, just like names, thanks for awesome video article about this specific topic, and then the body of the email would continue. But there is only one exception that I would like to cover, that in my experience is kind of different and not necessarily follow those kind of rules that we actually mentioned here and on those slides as well. It is the email to the investors. So essentially by this, I mean that it should be formatted differently. And this is what brought me the most replies. When you start with company name, then industry and business model, any kind of relevant metric grows, and then stage. This is some sort of a default subject format that investors do expect from the founders, and those kind of messages, even if sent as a cold email, kind of get noticed and responded, because the rest of the messages that people are looking for funding is complete bullshit, like, hey, let's get rich together, or invest into our startup and let's build the future. So all of the other lame stuff, but be professional and be mindful of the fact and aware that it is the maturity of the entrepreneur that helps the founders to raise the early stage capital. So basically, by approaching the cold email like that, you showcase that you really do know how those kind of things work, and it would really benefit you a lot. Guys, before we get into the next stage and talk to the body about the body of the message, if you have any questions so far, feel free to text them in the chat, and in the meantime, I will have a sip of water. So there is a complete silence, which is, by the way, absolutely fine.
So, here is hello, and hope you are well.
Hello, hello.
Actually, there is no question. Everything has been great, and thanks for your presentation. Just for thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your kind words. It's a pleasure. So, guys, then imagine that you ended up creating a decent subject line. So what's next? what you going to do. Obviously, then it's also go narrow down to the body of the message. So what is a cold email structure, the body of it? It is an introduction paragraph, then your offer, and then, as we already outlined, a single call to action. So how does it work in an action? So, introduction. Think of the introduction as a continuation of your subject line. So, for instance, if you basically reaching out to an investor with this specific subject lines that we discussed, in the introduction, you might showcase that you did your homework and know something about the investor. Like, for instance, that you recently have watched a podcast with this specific investor and he or she showcased interest in this specific industry or niche. So this is why you decided to reach out. So something like that would really work. So because it means that you did your homework. It's not just you went to the website and find out that you are building a startup in one of the sectors that they are investing in. This is lame. This is easily done. And people don't really appreciate it because in my experience, first of all, business is run by people. This is such an obvious notion, but a lot of us keep forgetting it. So it is very important to establish a relationship on a personal level. So what does it mean? That you really did your homework and find out something about the specific recipient? Because, like, let's be real, we love talking about ourselves and we're really pleased when someone really bother bothered by our persona, and if it is like really properly formulated, and even especially if they watch the podcast with us and would like to talk about it or at least highlight that they agree with something. My only one ask, please guys, don't make it cringy. In a way that if you found a personal network of the investor or any kind of other person and saw that the person was recently on a holiday, don't really mention in introduction their holiday, only if not you are building a travel tech startup. Otherwise, it would more looks like a stalkering than a proper introduction. Or, by the way, if you, let's say, have a mutual friend, it is the place to mention a mutual friend that asked to reach out, let's say, to this specific person. So, why to bother? Why shouldn't you just leave it as having a company name automatically changed and the person's name automatically changed with the templates? Because according to statistics, and here is even a link to the statistics, so I didn't make it up. The personalization increased the response rate by 2 times, and this is, guys, hell of a lot. Just to give you an idea, so my emails on average got opened 80%, and I got 20% replies, which is this is for cold, and this is for, and I'm able to keep it steady more or less in any kind of niche that I'm applying my cold emails to. Obviously, 20% doesn't mean that all of the investors are ready, let's say, to give me money or something else, but it initiates the conversation, and this is the stats that you should aim for. So, what kind of things that you might cite in this introduction? You might be in the same industry, you might have the same hobby, you might express an admiration that person recently, let's say, received some sort of a award on something or else, or you might, let's say, congratulate once again a personal professional achievement, but once again, don't make it cringy. And I keep again and again because it is so obvious. And it's like, with customer interviews. So I do a lot of teaching and learning, as I already outlined. And some people ask me, Daniel, why do you constantly repeat yourself on such of the simple things? Like, we got it the first time you mentioned it. But this is a funny bit. So, for instance, our today's masterclass doesn't imply any kind of practice. But when I do have practice, so in addition to masterclass, there is also a seminar. Even despite the fact that I highlighted a few most common mistakes numerous times, people still making them, although they like, nodding their heads and saying that, yes, we get it. So that's why I keep repeating myself, not because I don't have anything else to say. But anyway, now let's get into the offer. So what is the offer in a nutshell? That you should be very clear with the purpose of your email. So why do you reaching out to this person? And why this person should respond to this message. So be very clear and particular about it. So imagine you start your message. Let's say, let's make it to the investor. You watch some random podcast or an interview about this guy or lady, and you decided to reach out and you explain that there are some things in this interview that basically made you want to reach them to them personally. Then you say like, hey, I'm a founder of startup X. This is what we are doing, and what's very important, this is our current metrics. And then, since you mentioned in your interview, and according to your investment thesis, you are like investing in startups like that, I decided to reach out. So this is, and we will see an example later down the line, but this is how a decent basically cold email should be structured. And the same applies, let's say, to the customer interviews. Like, hey, I saw that you are, let's say, big in this industry. I just wanted to pick up your brain for a minute, like 20 minutes actually, and just want to ask you what kind of ineffectiveness do you face in the industry X or when doing Y, and then I will make a paper out of it and would be happy to share with you. And just to make it very clear, that's not a sales call, that's not going to share be anywhere else, and if it would be, it would be anonymously. So yeah, it's very simple. You explain why you would like to do it. You basically highlight and work with the most important things that the person might be in disagreement with, and this is how you get responses. Then call to action. Once again, I already mentioned how important it is to be very clear of what you want from person. I have seen messages when people would like to basically have a coffee with a person, make a person look at their pitch deck, check their website, check their tutorial. So like the maximum amount of call to actions that I saw was 7 in a single message, and this is a mess. The less options you give to the person, the more likely the person would respond positively to your ask. So, without further ado, here is a great example I personally see, and the stats tells me the same, of a cold email that would land you, body of the cold email, land you the conversation with the venture capital funds. Let's step by step walk through it. So, hey, this is clear. Then, as I mentioned here, at a recent TechCrunch interview, there was a light bulb moment, blah, blah, blah. Your thoughts on AI and legal tech intervening were spot on and echoed so much on our own journey, so I couldn't resist reaching out. So it is personal. It means that I did my homework and I know who is this person. I watched the podcast with him, so it makes the person willing to read and to continue reading my message. Then, an offer. I am explaining who the hell am I and what's important, especially for the venture capital investors. I have a bullet points with my current stats. So basically, what is my traction? What are my metrics? Who the hell are the founders? And what is my current funding stage? And how much money has been raised before? And then, to continue the offer, I answer why this person should respond. Whoa, that's interesting. So I say we are currently raising 5 million to scale our category and like giving the focus and area of expertise of the fund name. We would love to have you as a partner on board, blah, blah, blah. So it's like, it's relevant. It is clearly personalized to this specific person. It is clearly into this specific fund. I did my homework. So it is at least worth responding. And finally, a very clear call to action that let's have a Zoom next Tuesday at 2 p.m. GMT. Why it is so important to provide a very specific time? So, as you can hear from my perfect accent, I'm Russian. And in Russian culture, it is common that you don't offer specific times, but you say that I'm happy to adjust my schedule to yours as a sign of respect and admiration, some sort of like this. While in the Western cultures, and I have been living in the UK for the last 5 years, and before that in the United States, it's not the case because it is actually makes your email harder to respond on than easier. Because when you provide a timeline, a person could either say that I'm available on not available. And for instance, if this person is not available, you will have, and we will later look at it, a link to your Calendly in your signature. But if the person is available, you could literally say that, yeah, let's do it at 2 p.m. So make it as simple as possible. And once again, as we discussed at the beginning, account for culture differences and nuances. Then, postscriptum. I believe this is also kind of often overseen in the messages, but it's important. So imagine you have this email, even this one, for instance. So you respond everything, blah, blah, blah. Then what you can do, and this is also works because it is to some extent a numbers game. So if you improve your stats even by 10%, it means that you will easily get like one more reply. And one more reply might be the person who ended up investing into you, for instance, if you're talking about fundraising. So, you know, without pointing us into direction, we might not even think about something, even if we are able to do it. So in the postscriptum, asking whether I'm reaching out the wrong person and whether this person could basically forward this message to the person who is the right person to speak with is a good enough prompt for a person to do this action. And I have seen countless of times people forwarding my messages and be very comfortable with that. And perhaps without having it, they won't even think of doing it because they are basically all over the place with their job, and they don't have enough mental and mind space to think of being, let's say, kind of polite and nice. So what is the most underrated part of any email? And it is actually the signature. You know, it's like a foster child of the cold email world, because I believe not enough people really talk about it, and I believe it is extremely important and powerful. Why so? So first of all, how we do typically perceive a signature? So any kind of this bullshit. So like your name, your title, the company, the website for whatever reason, then basically your phone, your fax if you still have it, and the long text about privacy policy. So this is bullshit. Not a bullshit in terms of, let's say, it won't work. Yeah, it does the job of being just lame signature. But what if I will tell you that it is actually possible to turn a signature into the lead generation magnet, and also into a powerful tool of scheduling meetings. So here is a great idea of how the high quality signature should look like. So first of all, as we remember, as I mentioned already many times, it is impossible to raise money from the first email. It is impossible to close a deal from the first email, and blah, blah, blah. So we should treat the cold emails as building steps toward a relationship, a personal relationship. So if we're looking at this from that angle, what is the most important thing of a cold email? To showcase that you are human, that there is something of a real person behind you. So first of all, very important to have a picture of yourself there and with a smile. Then your personal and professional social networks. People really do click on it and really check it. Then, just in case the person is unavailable on a specific time that you would like to talk with him, have a link that you could schedule a call with me. This is also, people are really clicking. They are really, even the people, the strangers, they are really clicking. They are going to the website and they are basically booking calls with you. This really works. And last but not least, especially if you guys are doing a B2B solution, here you might have some sort of a links to your website. And if you know, when you go to your website, it essentially means that you could capture the pixel of this person and then run retargeting and build your lookalike audience profiles, then to do a proper, more targeted and more cost-effective advertisement. And really, people do that, and this will help you a lot with your paid ads. So, just to make it clear, the checklist for the high quality signature. You have a photo, you have a title, you have a link to personal social networks, calendar link, article relevant to recipient, and video, if any, relevant to recipient. If you don't have both, just leave with one. You think we are done already? Because, like, the timer is ticking and we have not much time left, but we are not there yet. I would like to tell you a secret. Another confession to make. I lied to you. Okay, not lied actually, but I didn't tell you the whole story. So when I told you that I have this 80% open rate and 20% reply rate, it wasn't because I write a badass cold emails or cold emails that is so perfect that it get all of this attention. In fact, there is a mistake that most of the people do that write cold emails, and it is that 70% of cold emails they don't have follow-ups at all. So people reached out once to investors, they didn't get a reply, so they think that the investors are not interested, so it's pointless at that moment. But it is not. Actually, the main reason why people do not respond to cold emails or in general to messages is not because they are uninterested or they annoyed by you, but primarily because that the message landed into their inbox in not the right time, and then it got buried into other messages. So basically, having a sequence of messages, ideally four, and it's especially powerful in the email type of things, would get you a response. And this is how, with having a proper sequence, allowed me to get onto this 80% open rate, 20% reply rate. So how does the sequence work? So you send your initial message, structure it in a way that we just discussed. Then you wait for a day, and then you send a paraphrased message. So before that, I had to do it manually. Right now, ChatGPT can do just great work for you. Then you send a clear and concise message with a call to action. So basically, what do I mean by that? It's like, hey Daniel, would like to talk with you about for raising money into our startup. We are currently raising. So like very short, and ideally it needs to fit into the phone screen. So it shouldn't be long. So it should be very easy to read. And then finally, you send a closing letter with something like try to reach out to you and just let me know whether you are interested or not, won't bother you ever again. So all of this basically sent over the course of 2 weeks. Obviously, no messages should be sent on weekends. And what's more, you could spread the times then when you are sending those messages across the day. So here are, in not any particular order, best times where you would send an email. So first of all, 8 to 9 a.m. Why so? You just get to job, the coffee is still in you have a maximum focus, so it's time for you to notice a new message in your inbox, and nothing really happening in your job at that early times of day. Then 4 to 3 p.m. Why so? You just get from the lunch, you're digesting the food, you feel a bit sleepy, and you're just for some particular moment of time procrastinating on your phone in the social networks, and this is when a notification might show up, and you might respond to the message. Then 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. Why so? You're already done with the dinner. You're either procrastinating once again on your phone or playing some computer games or blah blah blah. So you're bored, and sending the message at that time might give you a teeny tiny dopamine spike, so you might respond to it. And my favorite bit. I recently saw YouTube shorts with some sort of a stand-up comedian that was big on graphs. And what he showed, and I liked it, I even paraphrased and implemented this into this presentation, that in the 90s, the first thing that people did when they woke up was go to toilet. Nowadays is checking your mobile phone. I am guilty of that, and I bet all of you are guilty of that. Such is life. So what I mean by that, if you send a message in the 6 or 7 a.m. in the morning, uh, and expecting the person to check his messages first when they woke up, it might be a spot on. So basically, spreading those four different time frames across four messages in the sequence might do the job. The only one last bit, guys, please don't forget about the time zone difference. So create a different campaigns for different time zones. And I believe the elephant in the room, before we get into the question section, is how to automate all of that. So I prefer to use the tool that is called Woodpecker. You can Google it. It does the job of automatically sending the messages in a specific time frames, and there are a lot of conditions there. It does a great job, and they also have a great free cold email course that I also highly suggest you to look at it. I believe it's just few hours, and it goes slightly, not even slightly, actually more deeper than we have seen here today. So I saw that we have one question. So Daniel, how do you organize something like CRM? You need to remember responded or not yet. This is what I'm telling to you about Woodpecker, and there are some another tools like that. You can just Google it. But like for me, I have been using Woodpecker from 2016 or even 15, and I have been very happy with that since. And the company still exists. Any other questions, guys?
All right. Thank you, Daniel. And let's go for questions. We have some time for that. So those of you who are on Zoom, you can unmute yourself, bring your cases, tell us your experience, or ask any question. Those of you who are on YouTube, please send the questions in the live chat.
Everyone are shy today. Or I just like cover the topic so well that everyone is questionless.
I
I
think
don't
that
know.
was very clear in terms of explaining everything from A to Z. And yeah, I mean, you literally spoon-fed everything. I mean, even the things like the right timing, the right templates, etc. And yeah, so if there are
I
any
think we can
questions,
wrap. I think we can wrap up for now then.
yeah, I just saw
May I
TonTon's
have,
mic.
yeah, maybe
Please.
just the one.
Go for it.
So, let's say I have two kind of ways to communicate with the person, and one is, let's say, more formal via email, and another one via Telegram, for instance. From your experience, which one is like more responsive? Because I wasn't lucky in none of them. Like if I have a choice, of course I can use, let's say, two of them, but where people tend to answer more often.
So as I already highlight, it's not even about, let's say, statistics on, let's say, what works better and what works worse. It's all about the sequence. So if, let's say, obviously due to the time limitation, I couldn't go that deep into the nuances of cold emails, but actually, like the pros, what they are doing, they have sequences for different channels. So in a nutshell, it means that, let's say, you might start with essentially the oh my gosh, with the email, then continue with Telegram, and then let's say even have some sort of a message on LinkedIn, and this all of this could be automated. My problem with Telegram is that it's quite often muted, and even I do have a folder for the friends for whom I'm checking the messages, and then around 8 to 900 messages that are currently basically unresponded because, like, I don't expect anyone to like get my inbox. So account for this, and you can't really check it. So start with email. I would say that it is a safer bet, and then basically continue with the rest.
All right, thank you. I was actually thinking that Telegram is always the best option, so it's like really valuable insight. Thanks a lot.
My pleasure.
Okay, so it seems like that was the only question for today, but still, if someone is watching this as a recording, please feel free to send the questions as comments, as messages in our communities, and we will get back to you. I will be facilitating all that follow-up kind of things. And yeah, this video will be posted on our YouTube channel, and that will be available right away. And yeah, thank you so much, Daniel, for being with us from time to time and delivering such great presentations and workshops and so many actionable things. That was really valuable and very useful, especially for those majority of the projects that we have at TonNest, and always happy to see you on our stage.
The pleasure is mine. Alec, thank you once again for hosting me, and keep in touch, guys. Good luck with your cold messages.